1,000 years ago, while European sailors still hugged shore afraid of falling off the earth, Pacific Islanders crossed the world's largest ocean in voyaging canoes like this replica called the Hokulea. Navigating only by the stars, winds, and waves, methods revived today by the Polynesian Voyaging Society, they somehow found tiny islands in the middle of the vast Pacific. Among their discoveries were not only the main islands of Hawaii, but the rest of the chain, stretching more than 1,000 miles. To Polynesians, the Northwest Hawaiian Islands became places of legend. Today, they're a hidden kingdom for sea life, little studied, mostly uninhabited, and seldom visited by humans. Aboard the expedition vessel Searcher, Jean-Michel Cousteau and his team prepare for an island-by-island journey to the farthest point of the chain, tiny Kure Atoll. They'll be beyond any source of resupply or rescue, which means packing the ship with every kind of food, fuel, equipment, and medicine needed by a crew of 20 for 6 weeks.
Okay, I can't have those. I can't have those. Those can't. How about the monchong? Are these monchong? All this stuff has to be stuff that is on the Monterey Bay Aquarium approved list. You know, that's the whole idea of this expedition, is to show people how to preserve.
I mean, when it goes up in the air, it may shift.
And once I leave the dock, once we all leave the dock, all the food has to be on, everything.
Self-sufficiency extends to diving emergencies. 2 team members are trained diving medicine technicians, and a decompression chamber has been brought aboard. Dozens of dives in areas beyond reach by medical helicopters mean the Searcher must serve as a floating hospital if anything goes wrong. One of Cousteau's goals is to discover in the untouched outer islands what sea life was once like around the main islands.
Now, Randy, tell me, what are we going to see here?
Well, what we're going to see probably are some fairly barren reefs. I mean, the reef structure here is not too bad, but there's just an absence of big fish compared with the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. We're not going to see the big jacks and sharks that you might see other places. And that makes a really interesting comparison. That's one of the things that's great about the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, is that it gives us a yardstick by which we can measure the main Hawaiian Islands. You know, it's kind of like a window back in time. We can see what the fish populations must have been like here at one time, and maybe what they could be in the future again with proper management.
You know, I'm trying to make sense out of all of this. Obviously, you bring people here, you show them what it is, and it's really not that pretty.
It's a heavily impacted situation, but unless you see somewhere like the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, I don't think you'll really understand that this is not how these reefs are supposed to be.
Their voyage to Kure is the first in a series of unique expeditions.
We can say goodbye civilization, goodbye Waikiki, and now on to adventure.
Like an escort from the distant past, Hokulea leads the expedition out of Waikiki Harbor.
All the work you put into it, now it's going to pay off, right?
We certainly hope so. We certainly hope so.
As Hokulea turns back, Searcher heads northwestward into the deep swells of the ocean. Behind is her only companion vessel, a 3-person research catamaran operated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. Named Monocat, the catamaran will serve as a dive platform, then remain in the outer islands to conduct science work. Ahead lies the most remote large coral reef system on Earth. Nearly as vast as the Great Barrier Reef, 10 islands and more than 100 reefs and shoals, the richest tropical marine environment and the largest protected area in America, guarded as a national wildlife refuge and open only to scientific expeditions. The first stop, Moku Manamana Island, 300 miles from the main Hawaiian Islands, little more than a small treeless rock, but once Polynesians, a kind of Mecca in the Pacific. The first order of business is a shakedown dive to test the team's new equipment, from diving gear to high-definition underwater cameras and housings.
How are we looking here, Ollie?
Good, I'm just analyzing the last 2 tanks.
We got all our triples.
We need 6.
The dive is also the first chance for the team to work together underwater and iron out any problems for the weeks ahead. Moku Manamana provides a good test with its rough seas and strong winds.
Let's just sit here for a couple of seconds and see how she does as she turns.
What are we going to see below the water? Now we know what
We're going to see extremely clear water, and it's really exhilarating to see when you're down below, to look up and see all the waves breaking on the cliffs and the foam. And you'll see schools of surgeonfish and chubs. They'll be swimming through the foam, hiding from the sharks and other predators, and some will be feeding on the rocks. And as you go further down, you'll find the bigger jacks and sharks.
There are a few disoriented minutes, glitches in a light system and a housing, but gradually they smooth out the complicated coordination between 10 divers exploring, operating cameras, lights, and cables, and ensuring safety. Attention turns to the stark and rugged beauty of the life around them. What they don't know is that the heavy seas and 25-knot winds topside are preventing searcher from approaching their surfacing point near the island. A long dive will be followed by a long, exhausting swim back to the boat. The shakedown dive has proven frustrating. Logistic problems will be resolved, but the whims of weather and currents in an unknown region may pose continuing difficulties.
Well, how was it, boss?
It was wonderful until we were not being picked up. We'd be dropped way over there. We have to swim all the way out here.
We're picking up 2 other guys, a cameraman and a light guy.
The ship should have come all the way back there. Anyway.
Well, we picked up the first 2 that came to the surface.
As the weather and the winds abate, the team enters the same waters after dark. Night dives can be challenging. Additional lighting is needed not only for filming, but simply finding the way through ink-black waters. But animals hidden by day emerge at night. A tiger cowrie snail grazes on bottom algae, covered in a fleshy mantle and projections believed to be for absorbing oxygen. Predators of night appear. Holly spots both a conger eel and a moray. Some sharks also hunt in the dark. The team reads the posture of white-tip reef sharks, which can be aggressive and territorial amongst themselves, but tonight seem mostly passive. After a brief reconnaissance of the sea around Moku Manamana, it's time, by morning, to explore the island itself. Permits to land on Moku Manamana are not easy to obtain for many reasons, one of which is the presence of monk seals, an endangered species. The great puzzle of Mukamanamana is why ancient Polynesians sailed hundreds of miles to worship on this tiny, dry rock.
I've probably been here, this is probably my 5th trip, and I have to say that this is my favorite island. It is very, very stark, and there's very little vegetation. It's very rugged, but even in all of that, there is a huge bird population, and they're everywhere. And then the archaeology sites are just so moving.
For some reason, Hawaiian islanders who traveled the entire chain hundreds of years ago regarded Mukamanamana as perhaps their most hallowed religious site. Today, the landing team pays a different kind of respect, donning new clothing so no disruptive biological contaminants will reach the island ecosystem.
The mystery to me, which obviously is based on a different culture than mine, what is the motivation that makes people go there where you cannot live? There's no food, there's no water, and they kept coming there again and again and again. Why? It's a big question. Yeah. Why?
Researchers believe that Mukamanamana was occupied by Hawaiians sometime between AD 1000 and AD 1700. Artifacts left behind by these early inhabitants have been removed to museums. But some 33 religious shrines remain, like question marks made of stone. Several hundred years ago, Polynesians stopped coming. We may never know why they were drawn here, or why they left.
That's an albatross egg. An egg that has been left behind. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Sorry, little guy. No. Sorry.
Jean-Michel fills a bag with plastic debris, ingested at sea by birds and carried here. The first hint of a problem they will encounter in the weeks to come.
And it's just here on top of this sacred place.
Wood from the voyaging canoe replica called Hukalea, given to Jean-Michel as a token of good luck he will carry throughout the journey. Atop a lonely island, they imagined Polynesians hundreds of years ago sailing for days to reach this barren rock, which may have looked to ancient eyes like a stone altar looming up from the middle of the sea. More than 100 miles west lies French frigate Shoals. Once a volcanic peak encircled by coral, the mountains subsided, leaving only a coral atoll. First, they'll investigate two promising dive sites called Rapture and Serendipity Reefs. After 2 days of open sea passage, they're eager for a chance to explore and to film underwater again. Already, they're encountering reefs far richer than those of Waikiki. Holly finds a fire urchin, usually seen in the Indo-Pacific. The thick glove protects her from those painful stings. Nearby, a hermit crab avoids such dangers inside the tank-like discarded shell adopted as its home. Tiny Tern Island, at the northern end of the atoll, is the site of a World War II landing strip and a U.S. Fish and Wildlife field station. A few researchers and thousands of nesting seabirds.
It's approximately half a mile long, and at any given point there can be 20,000. It's hard to say at this point how many birds are right here.
What a place to work.
It's an amazing place. Yeah, we really love it.
How many months of the year do you spend here?
I am out 4 months and then off for 1 month. Back again for 4 months, off for 1 month. So it's a great time. We love it.
Oh, look who's we got here, sorry.
Yes, a young masked booby.
Do you think he's going to get out of the way for us, or do we have to walk around?
We'll need to walk around this guy. He's going to hold his ground pretty well.
You can actually sleep in this noise?
It takes a while. A lot of people can't at first, but eventually you can. Lots of earplugs.
So the counting you're doing now just for the shorebirds and not any of the seabirds that are nesting here?
Today we're only counting the shorebirds. So far we have 5 golden plovers and 2 ruddy turnstones. So it's
that's a low number.
It's a low number. It's not low for this time of year because we're just starting to get them back.
So what was your count again?
I have 16 wandering tattlers and 3 plovers.
17 ruddy turnstones and 5 plovers.
So, as you can see, there are animals nesting on natural things like shrubs, but at Tern Island, because the Coast Guard left and they left all these structures, they also are really useful as nest substrate. These birds, their coloration may help them deal with intense solar radiation and lots of heat. They're brooded. The parents sit on them till they're big enough to thermoregulate themselves. So this is a very good nest site for a brown noddy.
So people on the island all year round?
Year round, since 1979 when the Fish and Wildlife Service started the station. Yeah. It's a place where you live. Your life and your needs are secondary to the wildlife. So we have to accommodate their needs. And if a bird nests in the middle of the path, we make a new path around it. This little tern has decided to nest on our boat trailer. It's sort of a problem because this is a boat that we actively use all the time. When they want to use the boat trailer to move the boat over to the rack, they can gently reach underneath the bird, pull out the egg, and hold it safely until they get the boat off, and then when they're done, they'll put it right back in the same position.
Oh, wow. And the bird will
come back? The bird comes
back?
back, yeah. We do affect the birds with our buildings and with our activities. The cost to these birds is probably worth it to conserving the species and the populations in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. Yeah, this is an interesting phenomenon.
I mean, this comes from one of these guys.
That probably came from that young Blackfoot. They're sitting here for 5 months being fed by their parents and accepting anything that's brought to them. Among the things that are brought to them are large numbers of squid of various
that's all the
species.
beaks that we see there.
Exactly. So squid are mostly soft body, but they do have this chitin, made of chitin. Yeah, squid beak, and it's indigestible. They cannot digest this, so they just sort of accumulate in their gut until they've got a big wad of them like this, and then they are able to just regurgitate.
Now, in the squid, we find pieces of tubes.
Look there. Yeah, that came from the boat. Yeah. We get buckets and bushel baskets full of those things.
This is over at East Island.
Right.
It's a sea turtle webcam.
Researchers on Tern Island also continuously monitor nesting marine turtles miles away in another part of the atoll. operating a remote video camera from a building on Tern Island so they won't disrupt their behavior.
What's interesting about this is this particular island, East Island, is where 50% of the green sea turtles from the main Hawaiian islands come and nest.
50%?
50%.
From that particular island. How far is the island from here, from this very position?
4 miles.
4 to 5 miles, I think, yeah.
Would all these depressions be potential nests?
The majority of them are going to be an attempted nest where they body pitted and didn't find the right conditions and then continued on until they do find the right conditions. The number of turtles is definitely on the rise. Last year we had 400 turtles, and before that we've had in the 300s. So for such a small island, it's about maybe 14-acre island to have that many turtles nesting, with sometimes as many as 75 or 80 nesting in a single night, or attempting to nest in a single night. It's pretty crowded.
What's also interesting about the green sea turtles up here is that they bask during the day. You don't see that so much on the main islands.
Some people think it might have to do with the number of predators. The tiger sharks take their toll on the turtles here, and there's a lot in the area, especially on East Island, feeding on albatross, so it might be a way of escaping predators.
Now, is this the beach from which the birds try to take off and where you have your tiger shark attacks?
Actually, it's the opposite beach. It's the windward side on this side. They seem to accumulate along the berm edge where the wind picks them up. They get a good takeoff spot there.
And that bird may end up in the water, and you will witness a shark attack.
A lot of times, yes. There's a lagoon here and a near-shore avenue that they use. It seems like most of it is a very visual orientation on the birds. They just systematically patrol back and forth, hoping to be in the right spot.
So yeah, let's show you some footage. We're going to be watching this monitor here.
When was that recorded?
This was
July 4th.
4th of July.
That's a big guy.
That's a really big guy.
Oh!
This is one of the longer battles.
Oh no, here it comes. Oh,
Extremely fast.
Missed it.
But they're pretty good at tracking the birds once they take off. There he is, coming full speed.
Oh, he's taking a turn and coming. Oh, no. Now, this whole system, is that a first?
As far as I know, I haven't heard of any other systems that are able to, especially watch such a unique behavior and such an interesting interaction between the sharks and the birds. Not near shore like this.
Is he gonna make it? Oh no, he's not.
I say yes.
Oh, he's gone. You know, we are like monk seals. Can you wobble?
Wobble.
Wobble. Monk seals wobble. Monk seals.
Monk seals are the world's oldest living members of the seal family, and the only seal species in Hawaii. But their numbers are declining. They're shyer around humans than other seals and live mostly solitary lives, perhaps accounting for the name monk seals. In the waters off Tern Island, the seal's favorite dive spot is a sunken barge, which serves as both a hiding place and hunting grounds. They're the only marine mammals that hunts exclusively on coral reefs, sometimes making a kind of bubbling sound in their throats. With fewer than 1,500 Hawaiian monk seals left, every new pup is invaluable.
Last night, up in the barracks here, Marcy was sitting reading in her bed and hearing a sound just outside her window, wondering what is that?
This is a 2-week-old female pup who is from another island, Trig Island. She's a few miles away. And her mom got in a pup switch with another mom.
But one was actually just finished weaning, so one mom took off out at sea.
And she probably ended up following it into the water and got lost.
Aaron here on the island actually witnessed this and saw the pup coming down the island in the current.
Swimming by shore here on Turn Island, pretty far out, about 35 meters or so. And we searched for her all afternoon.
Yeah, you all took off for a little while there, so it was her that you were looking for.
This is the animal we were looking for.
And because they didn't find it yesterday afternoon, they thought that it was doomed.
Every single one counts.
You thought you'd never see her again, right? Because she would have been lost.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have had more energy because she didn't have any more food.
Right.
And the sharks would have gotten her probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed that she made it as far as she did without running into trouble.
She's a survivor.
She's a survivor.
And you're going to call her?
Well, we're going to name her Marcy. Marcy after the woman that heard her out the window. And her last name's going to be Calypso. Marcy Calypso. In honor of your guys' expedition.
Fantastic.
After following the wrong mother out to sea, the lost pup, named Marcy Calypso, will now be returned to her real mother.
You're going back to your mom this morning, aren't you? It's very unusual. This is the first, I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I've never come into a situation like this where we can reunite a lost pup that's gone miles away from its birth island. So I'm pretty excited about this moment.
Well, good luck, Marcy.
An hour later, miles away on her birth island, Marcy Calypso is safely reunited with her mother. Of the sunken volcano beneath French Frigate Shoals is a basalt rock looming up in the center of the atoll called La Perouse Pinnacle.
Let's cast off. Cast off! Naughty!
Jean-Michel and his dive team want to investigate reports of rich coral formations near the pinnacle. The plan is to circumnavigate the rock underwater. It's the largest green sea turtle Holly has ever seen. A curious trevally jack begins to examine the divers, perhaps the first humans he's encountered. The jack won't go away, tagging along for the entire dive and several that follow, earning a nickname from the team, Black Jack. Huge table corals like this are common far to the west in the Indo-Pacific, but extremely rare here in Hawaii. Twice before, biologist Jim Maragos has documented these same corals along a 50-meter transect line he lays out. Returning over time, he can track the health of bottom life in a region without great human impact, where changes are subject mostly to large-scale phenomena such as global warming. Jim's baseline information on a healthy coral system provides a comparison for corals in heavily impacted regions. Here, 400 miles out, they're finding beauty and biological exuberance that may have once adorned the reefs of the main Hawaiian Islands. The ancestral larvae of table corals like this may have been swept here on the currents from reefs hundreds of miles to the southwest. Counting annual growth rings, Jim estimates an age of about 12. French Frigate Shoals is home not only to the richest concentration of corals in the island chain, but the largest population of Hawaiian monk seals. This one may be curious, but not enough to overcome the wariness that characterizes his kind.
Here we are on the research vessel Searcher, which is very well equipped to go places as remote as this one. Not unlike what we were doing with Calypso, but I'm sure my father would have loved to have access to all this modern equipment. A rebreather means that you can recycle your own breathing with a mixture of different gases, which, depending on how deep you're going to go, can vary, and it allows you to stay for much longer periods of time.
New rebreathers used by Cousteau are safer than risky models of the past, making the team more like silent marine animals than noisy scuba divers using so-called open-circuit systems.
You are not making bubbles, and when you don't make bubbles, you can get right to the subject. And not so much because of the bubbles themselves, but the noise. Every time you exhaust, the bubbles are barely on top of your head, you can see animals freaking out.
We'll put on the units, try to adjust your straps. Okay, go ahead, decide which one's gonna be your master, switch it on. Oxygen, 98%.
So the computer will immediately, when you switch to oxygen, tell you what your decompression time is?
Yeah, see, the computer has this sensor right here that is actually analyzing the mix that's coming in the inhalation hose. And it's computing the decompression based on that.
To make it clear, Matt, when you go on a dive for 2 hours at 130 feet, what amount of time you save by decompressing normally versus being able to breathe pure oxygen?
Just without oxygen, without going on pure oxygen, we're talking somewhere in the range of about 30 minutes of decompression. If I go onto an oxygen rebreather, then we're talking more in the range of 20 minutes of decompression.
So you save 10 minutes.
Save 10 minutes, which is pretty significant, especially when you're hanging there in a current and the weather's turning bad on you.
In the open ocean, some 200 miles beyond French Frigate Shoals, the ship lays up in blue water that covers an undersea mountain peak called Rata Bank, 22 miles long and more than 100 feet below the surface. During the last 30 million years, magma gushing up from a seafloor hotspot in the abyss formed the entire mountain range we know as the Hawaiian chain. Each island is the peak of a mountain, built up as a plate of the Earth's crust moved over the hotspot in a northwesterly direction. Today, magma from the hotspot reaches the surface as the active Mauna Loa volcano in Kilauea. Over time, some 30 peaks subsided, and their submerged peaks are called seamounts, one of which bears the name Rata Bank.
The intent is, provided that we have the right information, is to go right over the very, very southern edge.
Eve, Matt, and Blair will be on the rebreathers, and Jean-Michel, Paul, and Holly and Jim will all be on open circuit.
Maximum depth?
140 feet.
And Jim will have a buoy.
The purpose is so that there's a surface float at all times that is tracked by surface boats, so that there's a direct connection between the surface boat and the divers below, so that you don't get lost.
So what's your signal to a boat to dive? Okay. So everybody got that. If he says that, there's no discussions, we leave. And we leave together. Let's go, guys.
Be there at about 1 o'clock.
So most likely we'll be diving in an area that no other divers have seen? Definitely.
We got about 10 minutes.
A deep dive like this can be dangerous in the open sea. 100 miles from the nearest island.
104 feet.
A diver wandering away from the team could be swept away in strong currents and lost. Almost immediately, the team is engulfed in a swarm of fish, most of them jacks. They've entered a world of so-called apex predators, sharks, jacks, and tuna that rule northwest Hawaiian Island reefs and comprise a large percentage of the animals here. For Jean-Michel and Holly, there's a strange sense of descending to a mountain peak, one forever hidden from vessels passing above.
Fishing vessel, 1 mile off my port beam. Do you copy? Over.
More than 700 miles out from the main Hawaiian Islands, Doc Littenberg sights a boat fishing illegally.
Requesting permission to film your activities. Over.
Doesn't see any more flags.
Yeah, keep a close eye for any guns off his...
It's a long line, huh?
Well, only long lining and drifting is illegal.
So we have a real war going on here between the fishermen and the environment, and it's just a very sad situation, and it's very difficult to figure out how it's going to be solved.
You want to make another loop like this?
Longline fishing is banned in a wide zone around the islands to protect the endangered monk seals from entanglement.
That's about all we've got.
Looked like that's what he was doing, definitely setting gear. This is the Honolulu office of the Coast Guard. He's talking to somebody else. They may have an aircraft up. I don't know.
We had a conference 2 years ago. There was a lot of talk, but no action. It's hard to figure out how this is going to happen. It might have to be another international convention, a treaty.
Alerted by the searcher crew, the U.S. Coast Guard investigates. A happenstance encounter catches some bad guys hundreds of miles at sea.
Good job, searcher.
Next stop, Marrow Reef. Only an acre above water, but a coral maze of nearly 500,000 acres underwater. The reef system below them is the largest in the northwest Hawaiian Islands, but it's also a complex configuration dangerous for research vehicles to navigate. As a result, Marrow's immense reefs remain little studied.
Would you like me to serve you a drink?
Perfect, another one.
Marrow Reef, according to reports, may offer one of the best opportunities to observe large numbers of sharks.
Ready?
For Jean-Michel and his trusted dive partner, Holly, shark encounters are routine. The possibility of meeting large numbers of sharks is something special. is not sharks that greet them, but another crowd of inquisitive jacks. Little disturbed, rising from ancient volcanoes, coral reef ecosystems of the northwest Hawaiian Islands are among the oldest in the tropical Pacific. They're also among the most northerly. Delicate reef creatures that look like living artwork flourish precariously at the boundary of much colder waters to the north. Light cables, strung down from the surface, permit close inspection of the miniature communities, thriving in only a few inches of bottom rock. And there's a momentary glimpse of sharks. It's called a blue dragon nudibranch, a tiny sea slug with gills like a feather boa. Crown of thorns starfish, which feeds on coral and, in occasional swarms, has destroyed reefs elsewhere. Finally, Holly spots what they'd hoped to see, a pack of sharks. It appears they've been hanging back as if intimidated by the wall of jacks between them and the divers. Galapagos sharks are considered dangerous, but they rarely attack humans, and they generally arch their backs as a warning display. The divers keep alert, but see no signs of aggression.
Holly? Holly?
One time's not over yet.
She's gonna dive again.
Up, here she goes. Here she goes.
A biologist and a naturally gifted diver, Holly seems in the midst of Galapagos sharks, like a child reluctant to leave the playground of her dreams.
Wow. That was amazing. They would disappear 5 minutes or so, and then we'd look down and you see, like right now, all the dark shadows coming up. And they're coming straight towards the surface like this. And I'd free dive down right towards them. And one of them, I was literally almost on top. I could have touched it. And it didn't know I was right there. How's that from all that residual nitrogen? I feel like a Coca-Cola bottle. So get that on camera.